Good Friday afternoon. Thanks for being with us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Chris Harapsky. This afternoon,
authorities say 2 suspects are in custody after reports of gunfire near the 100 block of Reese Avenue in Appleton. It's about 160 miles west of the Twin Cities. Authorities earlier reported that 2 people were barricaded inside a vehicle and multiple agencies, including SWAT, were responding to the situation. Right now, officials say there is no threat to the public, but note that a large police presence remains in the area.
Part of this morning's weather impact alert day was due to some intense winds last night. My garbage cans certainly got flung into the backyard with trash all over the place, but it contributed to hundreds of power outages across the area. We're looking at the latest numbers on the Xcel Energy outage map right now. It lists about 2,000 customers still impacted by those outages. Crews are working to bring those numbers down. Back to operations in Iran now. Today, we heard from the Pentagon, giving an update nearly 2 weeks into the fighting across the Middle East.
The United States is decimating the radical Iranian regime's military in a way the world has never seen before. Never before has a modern, capable military, which Iran used to have, been so quickly destroyed and made combat ineffective. Devastated. We said it would not be a fair fight, and it has not been.
This comes as President Trump issues an intense new threat to Iran. The president took to Truth Social, calling out Iran's leaders, saying, quote, "Watch what happens to these deranged scumbags today," end quote. He says they've been killing innocent people all over the world for 47 years, so, quote, "Now I, as the 47th president of the U.S., am killing them," end quote. New today, U.S. Command confirming that all 6 service members on board of a refueling aircraft have died after the plane crashed in western Iraq. Authorities say that the incident was not related to any kind of hostile or friendly fire. This comes as back in the United States, the FBI is investigating 2 separate attacks as acts of terrorism, heightening concerns around domestic security amid this ongoing war with Iran. NBC's Alice Barr has the very latest.
The U.S. military now confirming all 6 American service members on board a refueling aircraft died when it crashed in western Iraq, noting the incident happened during Iran war operations but was not due to hostile or friendly fire, and that the circumstances are under investigation.
Please keep these brave airmen, their families, friends, and units in your thoughts.
That amid a pair of attacks raising concerns about potential threats to the homeland. In Michigan, an armed man drove his car into a Detroit area synagogue and down a hall while a preschool was in session. Security guards at Temple Israel shot at the driver and he was found dead inside. Investigators calling it
was a targeted act of violence against the Jewish community.
No children or temple staff were hurt in the attack, but one security officer was injured, and roughly 30 officers were hospitalized for smoke inhalation after the suspect's car caught on fire. The Department of Homeland Security now identifying that suspect as 41-year-old Ayman Mohammed Ghazali, a U.S. citizen originally from Lebanon.
It's a terrible thing. We're going to be right down to the bottom of it.
While in Norfolk, Virginia, a shooting at Old Dominion University is being investigated as a potential act of terrorism. Investigators say 36-year-old Mohammed Baylor Jallo targeted an ROTC class, killing Army Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw and injuring 2 other Army personnel, before authorities say a group of brave students subdued the suspect, who also died. Jallo, a former Virginia National Guard member, was arrested in 2016 for attempting to provide material support to ISIS, according to court documents that also show he pleaded guilty to a terrorism-related charge and was released from prison under supervision in 2024. In new details, a local Lebanese official tells NBC News that several members of the Michigan synagogue attacker's family were killed in an Israeli airstrike in southern Lebanon last week. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
The attack is putting Jewish leaders here at home on high alert. Institutions like Temple Israel in Minneapolis increasing their security presence in the last 24 hours. Local Jewish leaders say coordination with local law enforcement is key in keeping Jewish institutions safe. This attack is hitting particularly close to home, again, for Temple Israel's senior rabbi, Marcia Zimmerman.
I know people there, I know the rabbis there. This world is full of violence and pain, and my hope is that we work together to make it different.
Minnesota lawmakers, both sides of the aisle, are condemning the attack and urging for an end to anti-Semitism. This afternoon, the Trump administration says it has temporarily lifted sanctions on certain Russian oil shipments. Officials say the move aims to ease the global energy shortage and surging oil prices. Authorities note it only applies to Russian crude oil already loaded on the ships stranded at sea amid the war with Iran. As Iran continues its attacks on oil tankers across the Middle East, this conflict is taking up a toll at the gas pumps here at home. Right now in Minnesota, it'll cost you about $3.38 to fuel up. That's up nearly 78 cents from this time last month. The national average also rising this afternoon to $3.63 a gallon of unleaded. See gas prices near you. You can head to KARE11.com/gas prices. This afternoon, survivors from the Annunciation School shooting are calling on lawmakers to ban assault-style weapons. Today, they rallied at the Capitol, and it comes as lawmakers consider a bill banning assault weapons. Minneapolis police say that the Annunciation School shooter used an AR-15 style rifle along with a shotgun and pistol that were all purchased legally.
My son walked away with no physical wounds, but he still sleeps on our floor. He wakes from nightmares. He tells me he doesn't trust adults because we allowed this to happen.
The state legislature is obviously closely divided, particularly on this issue. Nationwide, only 10 states currently ban assault-style weapons, though the definition of that very term varies from state to state. In the last few hours, a former candidate for Hennepin County Commissioner was found guilty in an assault trial. Marissa Simonetti is convicted of 3 misdemeanor charges, including 5th-degree domestic assault. The jury saw these videos showing Simonetti making noise and throwing things, including a live tarantula, toward a woman who rented the basement of the Edina home that Simonetti rented. She is expected to be sentenced in May. This afternoon, a daycare in Savage is cleared to reopen 6 months after a baby died there. The state lifted the suspension at Rocking Horse Ranch Child Care, saying there is no longer an imminent risk of harm. One of their former employees is awaiting trial after police say she admitted to killing Harvey Mucklebust and injuring another child. Araya Katane has the latest developments.
A single card and wilted flowers are still sitting outside this daycare in Savage, where 6 months ago, baby Harvey lost his life.
Our beautiful baby boy, the happiest, smiliest, laughing little light in every room, was murdered.
Rocking Horse Ranch has been closed for months after an employee was charged with the murder of 11-month-old Harvey Mucklebust. The state's Department of Children, Youth, and Families now says the daycare can reopen immediately because there are no longer conditions there that present an imminent risk of harm to the health, safety, and rights of children.
Harvey's Law requires daycare centers that receive state funding to have cameras in their infant and toddler rooms and retain that footage for 28 days.
Representative Nolan West says his own daughter was abused at a daycare center and wants to hold abusers accountable by building on a law that passed last year. That law requires cameras at child care centers with active maltreatment violations, but West says that's not enough.
There is a significant difference between a center having a maltreatment violation and an individual having a maltreatment violations. And what we're seeing, that rarely happens. So only around, like 22 centers last I checked have active maltreatment violations.
According to the Department of Children, Youth, and Families, all information is confidential during an active maltreatment investigation. Once that investigation is completed, only some information becomes public. This online search tool allows families to look up licensing information and recorded violations at Minnesota child care centers. Harvey's parents have testified in support of Harvey's Law, but some child care providers are expressing concerns about privacy and security, adding that proper training and supervision would be more effective than constant surveillance.
I understand the opposition, but that's why we worked to narrow it as much as possible while still providing safety.
Raya Katene reporting there. Some providers have also expressed concerns at the cost of installing these cameras. Representative West says that the law passed last year does include $174,000 of funding that centers can apply for and then use to install cameras at their facilities. Well, the state's largest school district will soon be looking for a new leader after its superintendent says he is stepping down at the end of the school year. Anoka Hennepin Superintendent Corey McIntyre says that he won't renew his contract when it ends in June. McIntyre has been at the helm for 3 years. Earlier this month, he was named a finalist for Wayzata School's superintendent, but ultimately did not get the job. The district has not announced a timeline to hire a replacement. New legislation is tackling the housing affordability crisis with the goal of making home ownership more achievable. Amanda Sansoni is in Washington with a look at how this bill could give hope for homebuyers.
A rare bipartisan breakthrough Thursday.
The yeas are 89, the nays are 10. The bill as amended is passed.
The Senate passing the largest piece of housing affordability legislation in a generation.
This is the biggest package of bills to make housing affordable in 30 years.
The 21st Century Road to Housing Act includes dozens of provisions intended to increase housing supply and lower prices.
This landmark bipartisan bill will help tackle the root cause of this crisis by getting more homes built in every community across this country.
Lawmakers say the package aims to spur more construction by encouraging local governments to expand housing development and ease zoning restrictions, removing federal regulatory barriers, banning large investors and Wall Street firms from buying new houses, and expanding manufactured housing, which can often be built faster and at lower cost than traditional homes.
Taken together, these reforms represent a common-sense approach to housing policy.
The bill still faces an uncertain future as it now needs to be reconciled with a similar, slimmer package passed by the House of Representatives last month. While President Trump has signaled support for the legislation, he also said this week he won't sign any new laws until Congress passes voter ID reforms. In Washington, I'm Amanda Sansoni.
Stick with us. We got more news and weather coming up after the break.